Hello, Scorpio. This is Selena Hart. I want to speak to the part of you that already knows something is off. The part that stays silent, watches everything, and stores what others dismiss. I know how deeply you love when you finally let someone in. I know how much you invest your time, your energy, your secrets, your loyalty. But I need you to prepare yourself now, because someone close to you, someone who has been inside your inner circle, or someone you trusted with, parts of you not everyone gets to see, is not who they've been pretending to be. And the truth about them is coming to light soon. This won't be a gentle realization. It won't arrive in a way that gives you time to emotionally brace yourself. This will hit suddenly, through an accidental message, a slip in a conversation, a confession someone didn't mean for you to hear, or perhaps meant for you to hear because the charade became too heavy to carry. However it happens, it's going to cut deep, not just because this person lied, but because you didn't see it coming, or worse, because deep down, you did. You just didn't want it to be true. Scorpio, what's about to surface isn't just about this persona, it's about the ways you've learned to silence your intuition for the sake of peace. The way you've learned to give people room to explain, to rationalize, to deny. Even when the evidence sits right in front of you, it's time to stop doubting what your body already knows. That uneasiness, that tension when they speak, that inner tightening you couldn't explain, that was the truth trying to get your attention. And now, the universe is stepping in, not to hurt you, but to unchain you. You're not being punished. You're being protected. Protected from staying one more year in something that's been quietly stealing your light. Protected from pouring into a connection that was never built on mutual truth. This exposure will hurt, but it will also liberate. Because for the first time in a long time, you'll stop questioning your instincts. You'll stop rewriting someone's actions just to preserve a version of the relationship that made you feel safe. You'll stop carrying the emotional weight of both people, and you'll realize how exhausting it's been constantly adjusting, compromising, and wondering if you're just imagining things. When this moment arrives, I don't feel rushed to understand it all. Let yourself process slowly. You're allowed to feel betrayed. You're allowed to feel foolish, angry, even numb. But please don't let it turn into shame. You didn't make a mistake by loving someone. You made a choice to believe in someone. That speaks to your courage, not your weakness. The clarity you gain from this experience will change everything. It will rewire how you move in relationships. You'll still love deeply, but you'll do it with boundaries. You'll still give, but no longer at your own expense. You'll still trust, but only when someone shows they've earned it through consistency, not performance. And you'll begin attracting connections that don't require you to dim or dilute who you are to stay close. This is a threshold moment. Scorpio, you are walking out of a space where your truth was hidden even from you and into one where nothing but truth can survive. Let what falls fall. Let who leaves leave. And when the dust settles, you will see just how much clearer your vision becomes without the fog of deception. You are not losing someone, you are reclaiming yourself. And I'll be here, helping you rebuild that inner trust, one honest breath at a time. And Scorpio, let's talk about that feeling you've been carrying, the one you haven't named out loud, but it lingers tugging at your awareness in quiet moments. It shows up in the tension you feel around them, in the way your energy shifts when they speak, in the moments when something doesn't add up but you brush it off because you don't want to be the one who overreacts. You've told yourself you're just tired, or emocional, or projecting, But the truth is, your body has known all along. Your intuition has never been asleep. It has been wide awake, whispering through your discomfort, through the pauses in their stories, through the subtle emotional dissonance you couldn't explain. You felt it. Not once, not twice, repeatedly, but your loyalty asked you to wait. Your compassion told you to understand. Your deep longing for emotional safety made you hope it was just your imagination. You didn't want to believe that someone you cared for deeply, someone you may have defended, was quietly betraying your trust. So you stayed. You stayed open. You stayed quiet. And you stayed available. But Scorpio, that feeling wasn't wrong. It was your inner self trying to protect you before the truth had formed. It was the psychic thread inside you, tightening every time your reality and their behavior didn't align. You didn't ignore the truth. You postponed it. And now, you're being asked to remember how accurate your inner knowing truly is. From this point forward, your relationship with your intuition will change. You will no longer second-guess yourself to preserve someone else's comfort. You'll stop negotiating with the signals your soul sends when something doesn't feel right. You'll stop silencing the truth just to keep a connection intact. And this return to self-trust will be one of the most powerful shifts you've ever experienced. Because the truth isn't just what's being revealed about them, it's what's being revealed about you. You are wise. You are intuitive. And you've always known more than you were ready to admit. Now, Scorpio, it's time to trust that knowing fully, and when the moment of truth finally arrives, Scorpio, it won't come softly. It won't be the kind of realization you can absorb over time or ease your way into. It will land like a sudden shift in the air, impossible to ignore, impossible to unsee. This won't be a small confession or a harmless oversight. It will be a rupture, a clear, undeniable exposure that someone you trusted, someone you allowed into the most sacred parts of your life, has been operating behind a mask. And the shock won't just come from what they did, will come from how deeply they knew you and still chose to deceive you anyway. This is the kind of truth that forces you to stop everything and sit with the weight of betrayal, not because you weren't strong enough to see it sooner, but because you believed in love more than you believed in fear. You wanted to give them every chance. You chose to hope instead of investigate, but now the illusion breaks. And with it comes the sting of recognition that the very qualities that make you so powerful in love, your loyalty, your depth, your devotion, were the same ones they quietly used against you. This is a painful truth, but it is a clean break. And as destabilizing as it may feel in the moment, it also clears the space for clarity, for boundaries, and for a kind of healing that only comes when everything false has fallen away. You may feel disoriented. You may find yourself rethinking conversations, replaying memories, and wondering how you didn't see it sooner. But don't dwell there. Scorpio, don't punish yourself for loving fully. That's not the lesson. The lesson is this. You now know exactly what it feels like when something in your world is out of alignment. And from this point on, you will never again tolerate the weight of someone else's deception disguised as connection. You will risen out harder, not colder, but wiser. And with that wisdom, no one will be able to misuse your trust again. For Scorpio, and the way this truth reveals itself will vary depending on when you were born, but make no mistake. Regardless of the method, it will arrive with precision. If your birthday falls between the 23rd of October and the 1st of November, the exposure is likely to come from something you stumble upon unintentionally. A misplaced message, a browser tab left open, a forgotten document, or a conversation you weren't meant to hear, something seemingly insignificant at first, until it clicks into place with all the subtle red flags you've been collecting in silence. You won't go looking for it, but it will find you. And once you see it, there will be no more room for doubt. No more space to justify or reinterpret what has been in front of you all along. If you were born between the 2nd of November and the 12th of November, the truth will arrive through another person, someone who has held onto this knowledge for far too long. Maybe it's someone close to you who's seen the shifts and didn't know how to tell you. Maybe it's someone on the edge of your social circle, carrying a truth they can no longer hold. This third party won't necessarily want to hurt you, but they also won't be able to keep quiet anymore. Whether they come to you with proof, concern, or guilt, they will act as the bridge between your suspicion and your confirmation. And though it may sting to hear the truth from someone else's lips, you know that this is the universe using their voice to validate what you could no longer ignore on your own. For Scorpios, born between the 13th of November and the 21st of November, the truth will come directly from the source out of nobility. But because the performance is crumbling, the person who has been hiding will no longer be able to maintain the lie. It may slip out during an argument. It may surface through a sudden emotional breakdown, or they may confess partially, defensively, or even with a twisted attempt to regain control of the narrative. But whatever their motivation, they will expose themselves, and in that moment, and you will see them not as the person you once trusted, but as someone who built intimacy with you on shaky ground. Their words will confirm what your intuition has screamed in the quiet, that you were never imagining things, that the disconnect was real, and that this moment of truth, no matter how destabilizing, is your opportunity to reclaim your emotional clarity, no matter how your revelation arrives. Scorpio, it will be personal. It will speak directly to the way you process truth, the way you protect your heart, and the way you demand honesty from those closest to you. The universe knows your timing. It knows how to reach you in a way that awakens, not wounds. So pay close attention. The signs have already begun. And when it happens, it will not just be the end of elite, will be the beginning of a very different version of you, clearer, stronger, and no longer willing to carry the weight of anyone else's deception. And Scorpio, once the dust begins to settle, once the shock gives way to silence, and the silence gives way to understanding, you will realize that this isn't just the collapse of a connection. It's the beginning of your emotional liberation. The truth may burn when it first arrives. And yes, there will be pain. There will be grief, not only for the person you've lost, but for the version of yourself that stayed loyal through uncertainty, who gave without receiving, who stayed open in the face of quiet betrayal. But underneath that grief is something far more powerful, clarity. And with clarity comes freedom. You will step into a new chapter of your life, one that is not defined by fear, doubt, or overcompensation. You will no longer feel the need to over-explain your feelings, to question your emotional instincts, or to rationalize behavior that doesn't match the energy you deserve. The confusion you once carried like a weight in your chest will lift, and in its place, you'll begin to build a foundation rooted in discernment. You will start to separate love from performance, care from control, intimacy from manipulation. You will look back and understand the difference between someone who truly nurtures your soul and someone who only mirrors your needs to maintain access to your energy. This experience will change the way you relate to people, not because it made you bitter, but because it made you wiser. You will become deeply familiar with the patterns of emotional manipulation, the shifting stories, the strategic vulnerability, the charm that comes when you're pulling away, the coldness that follows when you get too close to the truth. And once you've seen it for what it is, you'll never unknow it. You'll spot it faster. You'll feel it sooner. And you'll remove yourself from it before it ever gets a foothold in your life again. More importantly, You'll reconnect with your own emotional power. The energy that was once spent analyzing, doubting, forgiving, and hoping will be returned to you. You'll find your creativity returning, your instincts sharper, your emotional landscape more peaceful. You'll discover that when the wrong person leaves your life, and the room they occupied fills with possibility, and in time, you will attract relationships that don't require you to sacrifice your intuition, your softness, or your boundaries to be loved. This isn't just an ending, Scorpio. It's an awakening. And though it may not feel like it right away, this experience is setting you free from a dynamic that has kept you smaller than you are, quieter than you need to be, and more guarded than your spirit was ever meant to stay. What begins as a wound will become your wisdom. What begins as betrayal will become the root of your emotional rebirth. And the next time someone enters your life, they will meet a Scorpio who knows exactly what love is not because it was given easily, but because it was once taken unfairly. And now, you will never again forget the difference. Scorpio, one of the most important lessons you will take from this experience is to trust your intuition without delay or dilution. For too long, you may have been taught that your instincts need to be justified with evidence, or that your inner knowing is somehow too intense, too suspicious, too much. But the truth is, your intuition has been your protector all along. It doesn't speak in logic, speaks in sensation, in energy, in quiet unrest. And now you know what it feels like when your soul is warning you. When something deep within is signaling that your reality is being distorted. From this point on, you will no longer override you to recognize the kind of people who are drawn to your loyalty not because they respect it, but because they know they can exploit it. You will learn to spot the subtle ways someone tests your boundaries, manipulates your empathy, or frames their needs as emergencies that only you can fix. And when you do, you will no longer internalize their behavior as your burden. You will walk away not with coldness, but with clarity. You will preserve your compassion without placing it on an altar for others to use. Another vital lesson will be learning to establish boundaries that are rooted in self-respect, not fear. You may have thought that drawing a line meant being harsh or unkind, but now you see that boundaries are the language of emotional maturity. They are how you honor your time, your energy, and your inner truth. This experience will show you that the people who truly love you will never be threatened by your limits. In fact, the right people will feel safer when you stand in your truth, because it signals that you're not operating from desperation, you're operating from strength. And with each boundary you set, you'll feel a piece of your power returning to you. Most of all, Scorpio, this experience will push you to rebuild your life on a foundation of radical honesty and authentic love. No more pretending, no more shrinking to keep the peace, no more tolerating relationships that require you to edit your truth in order to be accepted. You are ready now for connections where transparency is the baseline, where emotional safety is mutual, where love is not a transaction but a shared, living truth. You are ready for relationships that meet you in your depth, not just take from it, and you will create that reality not by force, but by walking away from anything that doesn't reflect it. These lessons weren't learned in theory, they were earned in heartbreak, in quiet knowing, in nights you couldn't explain your pain. But now they belong to you, and no one can take them. You will move forward wiser, steadier, and more attuned to the sacredness of your own heart. This is not the end of your softness, it's the beginning of your discernment. And that, Scorpio, is the kind of strength that changes everything. So Scorpio, As this truth finds its way to you, whether suddenly or slowly, remember that you are not breaking down. You are breaking open. What's being revealed now isn't just about betrayal. It's about liberation. It's about reclaiming the parts of yourself you had to quiet in order to keep something that was never truly safe. And as painful as this moment may be, it's also deeply sacred because this is where you rise, not with vengeance, not with hardness, but with a quiet kind of power that says, I saw what tried to break me, and I chose myself instead. You don't need to rush the healing. You don't need to make sense of it all overnight. Just stay close to your truth. Hold your own heart with compassion, and know that what is falling away now is clearing space for something far more aligned with the version of you that no longer settles, no longer explains, no longer betrays your own knowing to keep someone else comfortable. This is your turning point. And it's not just about letting someone go, it's about welcoming yourself back. The you who sees clearly, the you who protects your peace, the you who knows that real love never asks you to abandon yourself. Take your time, feel what you need to feel, and when you're ready, lift your chin and step forward. Because what's coming next is built on truth. And that truth will never ask you to question your worth again. You're not alone. Scorpio, you never were. And I'll be here every step of the way as you rebuild, as you rise. And as you become someone who no longer doubts what they feel. Because now, you know,